This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Curtis Sliwa, your upcoming host, and Curtis Sliwa's Swingin' Karaoke continues.
Oh, yeah, I see that. Did you actually go to that impromptu free concert that Paul McCartney was giving? Oh, there were two of them, right?
Right, yeah.
What were the locations?
Well, there was the one at the Bowery. I know that there was the Bowery Ballroom.
Okay.
And they were both there, Lou?
Yeah, both there. So you had to go to the box office, and you had to get your ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. I mean, it was announced like in nanoseconds.
Right. It was like a pop-up thing almost.
So I understand that you actually jumped up on the stage with Paul McCartney, and you actually have taken this to a new, disturbing level in terms of you singing.
This was like a bucket list thing for me. And, with Elon Musk talking about people that were 150 years old getting Social Security checks, I was inspired by one of my favorite Beatles songs.
Oh, that's good. That's very good.
When I get older, losing my head, many years from now, will you still be sending me a Valentine? Birthday greetings, bottle of wine.
If I've been dead since 2003 or 1994, Social Security, won't you still pay me till I'm 164?
I noticed at that point, the security came up on the stage.
Yeah, they're pulling me down. They said, "Who's this guy?"
Well, you're James Flippin and the Flip Flockers, right? At WABC. Now let's do some.
I was squawking while I was getting pulled away.
Let's do some Paul McCartney trivia. I hated Paul McCartney. I like John Lennon.
Yeah.
I even tolerated the songs from his wife, Yoko Ono, at that time. So do you know what Paul McCartney's most sold song of all time was? Out of all the songs that he did, both with the Beatles and on his own.
I'm wondering if it's like a Wings record, because maybe that's like a trivia thing that I wouldn't expect or something like that.
Silly Little Love Songs.
Okay, yeah.
Perfect for Valentine's Day.
Right, that's right.
Perfect for Valentine's Day. And do you know what his personal favorite was? Because obviously he was a prolific songwriter.
I don't know, maybe like the You and Dominic record, Ebony and Ivory or something.
Yeah, no, Here, There, and Everywhere.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's a good one.
He had so many. And the other trivia that involves Paul McCartney, he lived out in Southampton. I think he still does. He has his mansion there. Bruce Blakeman, who is the county executive in Nassau County, ended up having a divorce with his wife. She was the daughter of a trucking magnate.
Mm-hmm.
And that trucking magnate, was very influential in getting her a job when she was married to Bruce Blakeman on the MTA, the board.
Oh,
she
yeah.
never showed up for one meeting in 3 years. But she was dating Paul McCartney at that time. She had already left Bruce Blakeman. So is it safe to say that Bruce Blakeman might have been at these two impromptu or one of those concerts?
It's certainly possible. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how Bruce feels about my singing, but I'd like to get some feedback.
I'm telling you, they all get along. Nobody knows these things.
Yeah. Well, it's nice. It's nice when people can stay friends. You've often done that with your exes, right?
Yeah. Well, for Valentine's Day, you have to. You have to send out their happy Valentine's Day.
Do you really? You think is that part of the?
Oh yeah. That's a tradition. Come on, you have to.
Nancy's okay with that?
Yeah, because naturally she's my biggest Valentine. Everybody knows that. She's the keeper. But the keeper now is RFK Jr. We thought initially that might be the most problematic choice that President Donald Trump made for his cabinet. We know that Matt Gaetz wasn't going to last long. So that was his first one. That was out the door. Pam Bondi replaced him, and she is the Attorney General. But RFK Jr. was confirmed today.
That's right.
And he has the most predictable odd job of all the cabinet members that exist, because he is an enigma. Remember, his whole point of being in getting out of the race running for president and then endorsing Donald Trump, and who knows, that might have been the margin that gave Trump victory in the 7 battleground states and allowed him to get the popular vote. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. But boy, they bonded. And I remember when they got on that stage in Phoenix, when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said, I'm no longer running for president, I'm endorsing President Donald Trump because we're going to make America healthy again. And Donald Trump said the same thing. And then the next time, remember, they were on the Trump won on their way to Madison Square Garden for the UFC fights. And they made RFK Jr. sit at the table and eat a Big Mac fries.
Okay, I see. I thought you were almost going to be okay there because you said he made him sit at the table.
Right.
They did the photo op. They had the McDonald's there. They had the Coke. But you don't know if RFK Jr. actually ate the McDonald's.
I'm assuming they made him.
Maybe.
But, you know, it is interesting. He's a healthy guy. He's 70 years old.
Well, I mean, if he didn't eat the bun, if he only ate the quarter pounder patty with no cheese on it, that's not so bad.
That's true. But he's a fit guy. You see him doing all kinds of calisthenics, isometrics. He's 70. Sid, our resident who's familiar with all things Botox, all things steroids, said, no, you can see him. He definitely uses Botox and
pharmaceutically
steroids.
Enhanced. Yeah.
70 years old. The other thing is when he was giving testimony at the confirmation hearings when it was getting very contentious, if you notice, he had that little slice of chew in his mouth, chewing tobacco.
That's right. And no free advertising, so we won't mention the brand, but it's not a smokeless tobacco because it's not actually tobacco. They're nicotine pouches. But look, that's a healthy alternative to smoking and dipping.
Okay, so you have been an advocate for him, along with Frank Morano, for a long time.
Oh, I wasn't as on his candidacy as Frank Morano was.
Right, but what are the things you like that he's going to be bringing to the former position that was held by Dr. Fauci?
Well, I think more than anything, you have to like that this is a guy who's anti the influence of big pharma on public policy, right? In other words, pharmaceuticals and the drug research that's involved and all the different vaccines and the medicines and all that can be very positive. And there's a lot of reasons to support that. But it shouldn't be the only factor in terms of making decisions for public policy, passing laws. Of course, we saw during COVID the kind of problematic relationship between big pharma and lawmakers, and everybody had to take the shot. So I'm very interested in having somebody in that position who's not just going to be pushing for what the paymasters want.
And as you know, for a long time, he was associated with a lot of folks, including my older sister, Alita, who believed that children's vaccines, could potentially lead to these increased cases of autism amongst young boys.
Well, let's just be fair that we really still don't know that much about what causes autism. And there has been an increase, whether it's just the observed rate of it in the last 30 years or it's actually happening more. And there's some people who feel that some patients may suffer certain reactions based on the schedule of the vaccines. It's not really the vaccine themselves. It's just you do it too often, you do it too young, boom, 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 boom. I'm saying that's the theory. I'm not saying I know anything exactly. Don't call me a conspiracy theorist. But there's questions. And it's okay to ask questions. That's science.
But isn't it interesting that the guy that he questioned with his book at the time was like considered the premier doctor in all of America, Dr. Fauci. His whole book, R.F. Kennedy Jr.'s book, was dedicated to knocking down every point that Dr. Fauci said, and he was proven to be true on almost all of them.
Well, it was very upsetting for you personally because you don't like when a Brooklyn guy like that is attacked.
Well, remember, Dr. Fauci was the son of a pharmacist in Bensonhurst. He went to Regis High School, the prestigious Jesuit high school. They don't have a football team, so they're not that prestigious, but they're brainiacs. And he was considered America's doctor since Ronald Reagan. And it was RFK Jr. and Rand Paul who just started to knock down every point that Dr. Fauci was making that we now see in the aftermath. Well, both RFK Jr. and Rand Paul were correct on most of those questions in which they were being shut down. Remember, at that time, Zuckerberg, when he was in the camp of Biden, in the Democratic camp, he was actually banning their publishing. He was banning any questionings that there was of Dr. Fauci by not only Rand Paul, Senator of Kentucky, but also RFK Jr.
Yeah, he was the sainted Fauci throughout COVID. No question about it. But look, the situation with Fauci is interesting because it connects to some of the spending, USAID, what are we doing with some of this research around the world, and why is taxpayer money being spent on this? Is this really in our best interest, or is it just kind of some special interest thing? That's interesting. Also, just going back to RFK Jr., I'll mention he's been very consistent in being critical of seed oils and their use in processed foods. We know we have a problem in the United States with all this processed food, and kids are heavier than ever, and it's partially due to a lack of physical activity, but it's the food as well. And so we need to know more about that and the processed foods in general. And then also, I know you like this one, looking into the impact of fluoride in the
That's right. Well, see, when I was a kid, what they did was a very radical right-wing group at the time, the John Birch Society, would give out literature that said, because it was starting to put fluoride in the water, in your water supply, to fight cavities. Because that was a big problem. You get cavities, and a lot of people didn't have toothpaste initially. They would actually brush their teeth with Arm & Hammer baking soda.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I've heard that can be effective.
Right, that was the remedy. But Dennis was saying you really should have fluoride in the water supply. And that became the movement across America. The John Birch Society not only stood and said that was a communist plot to take over America, but that the outgoing president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, was actually a communist. But it was actually getting a lot of traction. There were a lot of people who said you cannot put fluoride in the water. It's clear RFK Jr. wants to sort of analyze what are the levels of fluoride in the water. He's not saying there shouldn't be any fluoride. He's saying there's too much fluoride because already we have fluoride in our toothpaste, which you didn't originally have. So I'm open for that discussion. But boy, he has opened up a can of worms beyond fluoride. He's taken on Elon Musk. Over what issue?
No.
Ozempic, which is the rage, the shot that people who have diabetes have been taking, and it's been a great remedy for maintaining their diabetes without it consuming their life, or forcing them to basically lose limbs, to lose their balance, to lose their ability to function. But Ozempic is being used now as a weight loss drug.
Right.
Elon Musk is using it.
Okay.
See how good he looks there? Remember before he had he was pudgy.
Oh, you're impressed with his physique these days.
Yeah, but one thing about Elon Musk, he tells you the drugs he's using, Ozempic. Mm-hmm. RFK Jr. would like to do away with Ozempic for uses other than diabetes.
Oh, see, that's interesting. I wasn't aware.
Oh,
of
yeah,
that.
Restrict it. And I'm telling you, how many people...
And I assume Wegovy or the other ones, too. He wants to restrict.
Yeah.
Just
but Ozempic leads the parade, and there are all these drugs now, and soon it'll be a generic drug, so that the person with the patent...
What's his objection to the drugs?
I don't know, he just says that Big Pharma, with all their advertisements on TV... forcing doctors to prescribe to patients things they don't need. I agree with him on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, it kind of connects back to the whole issue of being a little bit anti-big pharma, saying, shouldn't we look at the food supply first in terms of what is leading to aspects of obesity, as opposed to just saying, time for another shot, time for another pill,
But you take on Elon Musk over Ozempic. I mean, remember, he's promoting it, he's using it, he talks about it.
But you said that he's looking good, so how do you know
but
so he doesn't need it anymore?
Yeah, but they're saying there could be some ramifications down the line. Now, the other thing is when he was in Silicon Valley, when he was pro-Democrat, remember when he was hanging out with Zuck and all the Democrats, they admit to having parties with Molly, ecstasy, all kind of mood-elevating drugs. They've acknowledged that.
All right.
He admits that he's had some problems in terms of his mood alteration, that he's been on pharmaceutical products. So he's big on Big Pharma, Elon Musk, and he's got a lot of weight in the Trump administration. And here's RFK, who was just confirmed today, he said, you may not see these commercials on TV any longer that are promoting pharmaceutical drugs from Big Pharma, because they come at you in droves, and it makes billions of dollars for the networks. He may ban that. And he may ban the use of Ozempic, that you write prescriptions for Ozempic for non-diabetes use.
Well, look, I think that there's the whole concept of team of rivals. You've heard about that, how Abraham Lincoln had people from the other party come into his cabinet, a lot of healthy debate, a lot of healthy disagreement. It led to internal strength. I think that's what's maybe going to happen here. You're going to have RFK Jr. pushing for the holistic and super healthy life that way, and then Elon Musk saying no.
You know what this reminds me of? Cain and Abel. Because they are like brothers. Remember, they're outcasts. They're outliners. They're not accepted by the mainstream.
Right.
And they are brothers in solidarity.
And they have family members, maybe in Elon Musk's
aspersions
it's his
against
kids
him.
who don't like him, but
and his wives. Some of his wives have
Right.
said, I hate Elon Musk. So you have the same thing with Robert Kennedy Jr. Every one of his siblings, every one of his extended family members, led by Caroline Kennedy, who stood there, remember, with John Kennedy Jr. when the casket passed by after the assassination of President JFK. We all remember that. Who viciously went on video right before Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had to go through that tough confirmation process and leveled him. Now, I never liked RFK Jr., but I always felt, wait a second, you're bringing up the fact that he was on heroin for 14 years, which he was. He was busted on a felony conviction for selling. He had other personal problems. All the Kennedys have had personal problems. Come on.
right.
But she almost took this as a mission. I have to make sure that my cousin never becomes in charge of the health decisions in America.
Well, I mean, it's like they say, don't go against the family, but I guess in the Kennedy sense, it's really not just the family, it's more so the party.
They never did, though. Before, they never did. Kennedys always circled the wagons. You remember with Ted Kennedy, Chappaquiddick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, oh God, that was horrible. They all circled the wagons. They've always circled the wagons. This is the first time that the Kennedy, who was considered the black sheep, had criticism from every living family Kennedy member who actually went out on the campaign trail and vilified him when he was running as an independent candidate for the presidency. And I don't know how that affects your head. I'm lucky I have a united family, 2 sisters. My parents are no longer with me, but extended family members. It's a tight family.
Yeah.
What does that do to your psyche when every member of your family, the most internationally famous American family, is opposed to you and revealing secrets about your life that really has no bearing on you becoming the health czar of America?
It's sad to watch from afar. It's crazy what things like money and I guess in this case politics will do to tear families apart. And that's seemingly what's happening with the Kennedys, but I think he could take it.
Now, interesting because Elon Musk is a believer in ayahuasca. Definitely a believer, like Aaron Rodgers, who now will no longer be a Jet.
Right.
And remember,
official now.
Did I say when he first came on board after he went to that Taylor Swift concert in MetLife Stadium, that first year was over? Why would you go to a Taylor Swift concert before the beginning of the season? That will soften you up. 4 plays in after bringing out the American flag at MetLife, right? He had a horrible leg injury.
Yeah, the Achilles went, and I guess so did his tenure, really.
Yeah, but what did I and Greg Kelly say? Got to give credit to Greg
Kelly.
No,
I think you and Greg Kelly deserve credit. Have you gotten an apology yet from Joe Nolan and from Sid Rosenberg?
No, but it was really Greg who took the heat. He was the first to say, hey, look, if you're using LSD ayahuasca as a professional NFL football player, because he was promoting that. He was taking players to Machu Picchu.
But to be fair, Greg wouldn't like NFL football players if they were drinking milk and distilled water. So.
But he took a lot of flack, remember?
Yeah, he did.
Remember, ESPN.
Aaron Rodgers even went after him.
Right,
yeah.
ESPN was vilifying our own Greg Kelly, who did not surrender, did not retreat. He stood up. And I got to tell you, he took a lot of heat for taking on, at that time, was considered maybe one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Aaron Rodgers.
Well, he is still one of the great quarterbacks of all time. But in terms of Greg Kelly, very MAGA, you're talking about kind of going against each other. And I just want to say, it might be wise for you to cozy up a little bit more to the Trump administration, get a little closer, not so anti-MAGA, because how do you know they're not going to want to establish DOVA, the Department of Vigilante Affairs?
On this, the 46th anniversary of the Guardian Angels. Thank you for remembering. So I'm not going to kick you out of here like I normally do.
All right.
It's our anniversary. Thank you, James Flippin, for remembering.
Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa. Rip and read. Check this out.
This is the Rip and Read, featuring Curtis Sliwa.
Talking about
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa. This is the Rip and Read.
It's high noon, and the meetings took place at the Federal Building down in Foley Square. Tom Homan, the border czar, and in control of ICE Immigration and Naturalization Service, had a sit-down with the Republican members of the City Council, the Common Sense Caucus, a few of the Democrats, to discuss what had transpired since he had come to meet with Eric Adams at Gracie Mansion, which was, well, just about almost 2 months ago. It was December 17th of 2024, in which Eric Adams, a swagger man with a plan to avoid going to jail, pledged to Tom Homan at that time that he would do everything conceivably possible to help ICE as they were sweeping off 5 borough streets of the really worst hombres, the men and women who may have committed crimes here that were involved in violence, robbery, and then those that may have committed crimes in their country of origin, but it was never vetted out at the border, and they would be grabbed up and sent back. That was the commitment. Look at how far we've come, ladies and gentlemen. Before Tom Homan was rehired with the election of Donald Trump as president of the United States, the person in charge of the Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, and his deputies were allowing for a massive flood coming into our country unchecked. And remember, Kristi Noem, who has replaced him, former governor of South Dakota, has said no, 1,000 times no. We're not going to do that anymore. But a year ago, there was a hearing in City Hall, and I've played this cut many times, because it indicated that without cooperation with ICE, the federal agency that was established right after the attack of 9/11, just 2 years afterwards, and this group was meant as federal agents to go after people who had overstayed their visas, whether it was vacation or work-related, who had come into the country illegally, or who had gone for a federal hearing about their immigration status, and the federal judge ruled that you have to go back, gave them a few days to get their personal affairs in order, and then they just disappeared. And then, of course, there was the terrorist list, the terrorist watch list, that continues to grow and grow as we make more and more enemies around the world. This is a year ago, City Council hearing. Robert Holden, Democratic councilman from Middle Village, from Maspeth, is questioning our entire police department's leadership of the NYPD about why you're not even plugging in the computer for the terrorist watch list into the NYPD computer to keep us out of harm's way, because we're target number one.
Deputy Commissioner Gerber, you said you don't share information with ICE at all.
We are not permitted to do anything basically in the world of civil immigration enforcement. We're not allowed to do that.
No, but let's say there are 2 million people now on the terror watch list. Do you know that? There's 2 million people. This is the latest news that we have. 2 million. So if, let's say, your facial recognition comes up with somebody and it pings on the fact that this guy is on the terror watch list. Do you just go to the FBI, or you won't?
So obviously, if
you go to ICE,
as a matter of a criminal investigation, we have various law enforcement partners, but whatever else we're doing in the criminal realm, we are not permitted to use department resources, department information in connection with civil immigration enforcement.
Isn't that incredible? It only requires taking a plug and putting it from one computer to the other computer, the ICE computer, which has the terrorist watch list, and sharing it with the NYPD. The NYPD, you heard there, say we cannot accept any information from ICE, even though it might include men and women who were intending on attacking us here in New York for a third time. I want you to hear that again. Here's Bob Holden. This is a year ago. This was the Intel Division. These are the people who do the investigations of potential terrorists who want to do us harm, who want to hit us a third time. And listen to what they said a year ago, how they would not they were not permitted to cooperate with ICE, even about terrorists that may be lurking in our area.
Deputy Commissioner Gerber, you said you don't share information with ICE at all.
We are not permitted to do anything, basically, in the world of civil immigration enforcement. We're not allowed to do that.
No, but let's say there are 2 million people now on the terror watch list. Do you know that? There's 2 million people. This is the latest news that we have. 2 million. So if, let's say, your facial recognition comes up with somebody and it pings on the fact that this guy is on the terror watch list. Do you just go to the FBI, or you won't? So obviously, if you go to ICE,
as a matter of a criminal investigation, we have various law enforcement partners, but whatever else we're doing in the criminal realm, we are not permitted to use department resources, department information in connection with civil immigration enforcement.
That's unbelievable. That was a year ago. That's got to change. And then Bob Holden, who has always carried the torch on this issue in city council, had this to say.
Most of us have lived through 9/11. We know why customs enforcement was created, so that we can communicate with agencies. So not to communicate with somebody who matches the terror watch list would be ridiculous.
Absolutely. And at that time, Eric Adams, swagger man, with no plan at that time to get off of the pending charges that were going to come down the pipe, the 5 indictments for political corruption from the Southern District of the U.S. Attorney's Office. This is what he said feebly about why he couldn't work with ICE. He could, but he chose not to because he hid behind what he said was the law.
We're not allowed to. City council law prevents us for using city resources to coordinate with ICE around immigration issues, and we're going to follow the law.
Follow the law. That was always his excuse for not working with ICE, Immigration and Naturalization Service, as the Venezuelan gangbangers were flooding into all 5 boroughs and creating chaos. And then Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. One of his first reappointments was Tom Homan as the border czar. And remember, he came up December 17th, and he sat in Gracie Mansion with the local director of ICE. For the first time, a member of ICE was welcomed into Gracie Mansion, was welcomed into City Hall, was welcomed into a municipal building. They were always told, you're not permitted to come into a court. You're not permitted to come into a correctional facility like Rikers Island. And Tom Homan came out and gave Eric Adams a report card. He said, 5 stars, top shelf. He's going to work with us.
Look, when I sat down, I've been calling him out for 2 years. I've been saying he forgot what it's like being a cop and became a politician. But when I sat down at that table, John, the cop came out of him. He understood. I'm not asking them to be immigration officers. I'm asking them for his law enforcement officers to work with my law enforcement officers to remove public safety threats from his community. He gets it.
He gets it. And he gave him a 5-star top shelf rating. Said, I saw the cop came out of Eric Adams when I sat with him in Gracie Mansion. Tom Homan didn't realize he was a house mouse for 22 years. The guy never went out and patrolled the beat. But that was then, December 17th. Then on January 28th was the first day of the ICE crackdown in the 5 boroughs, and they focused on the Bronx. And Tom Homan was not able to reach Eric Adams to secure the total cooperation that he had been promised.
This morning I'm lost. I mean, our meeting went very well. He committed to helping us. He did say to write some executive orders to get us back to Rikers Island and get his officer to at least help us with public safety threats, those significant criminals. And he also committed to help finding the missing children that were trafficked into the country. Since then, I've seen no action. However, last night he reached out to me and says, his officers are ready. So, I made a call this morning. I haven't got a response, but I will communicate with him today. I need to know what's happening. Actions are louder than words. I appreciate his commitment, but we got to know how we're going to get this done. And if he can't get it done, ICE is there today, and we're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to be there next day. We're going to do our job. It'd be much easier if we could work with the NYPD to get these people while they're in Rikers Island before they're released back into the community, because it's safer for the community, it's safer for the agents, of course, and it's safer for the alien. So I'll be reaching out to Mayor Adams. I already did. I'll reach out to him again. I guess I ought to come back up there and find out what the hell's going on.
And he did. And he was there today. Now, that was back on January 28th when Sid was doing his show before a live audience right here in Studio 77. Holman was upset. So today he was at the federal building, Foley Square, at ICE headquarters. He had in the Republican council people, I think he had in the Common Cause caucus, the additional Democrats, discussing from their point of view what has been done. And I'm sure they were saying, not much, Tom. And then he had to sit down with Eric Adams for a half hour. And when the mayor came out of that session, he had no comments for the media, which is, he's got to really buckle down, and he's got to tell everybody, hey, we're working with ICE. He can't do what he's done with us for 3 years, the pivot and shift. He cannot do that with Tom Holman, and he cannot do that with Donald Trump, because they hold a Damocles sword over his head. In fact, Pam Bondi, the new Attorney General of the United States, head of the Justice Department, was very clear about Eric Adams' legal status, but did not go into the details that she knows, and we already know that they can re-indict him and retry him at any time if he doesn't cooperate in dealing with the illegal, violent aliens, that ICE needs the NYPD to cooperate with them in order to remove from our streets and deport back to their country of origin.
I know our acting DAG, Emil Bove, has spoken to her, and Chad Mizell may have spoken to her, but that case should be dropped. It was done at the directive of Emil, so that case should be dropped. I did not know that it had not been dropped yet, but I will certainly look into that.
No, see, Attorney General Pam Bondi, she's talking about who's head of the Southern District is Sassoon. She may resign rather than go before the judge, the federal judge Ho, and say we're dismissing the charges against Eric Adams, because it is a very strong case of political corruption. It's called straw donors. The judge, Judge Ho, may decide, no, you can't dismiss this case, because it is very credible. You have witnesses that are preparing to testify that have already pled guilty to the crimes of engaging with straw donors, which is using foreign money from Turkey to get an 8-to-1 match when Eric Adams ran against me. This all happened in the summer of 2021 when he ran against me. And then what is unsaid, and Bill O'Reilly, Justin Ellick, couldn't have been more hopelessly wrong when he told Sid this morning that Bragg could not indict Eric Adams on these same charges. He just did that to Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon was charged originally by the feds with bilking investors who he had convinced, along with others, to complete the building of the wall once Donald Trump had left office. 3 of those individuals were found guilty or took a plea bargain and are in jail. Bannon was given a pardon by then outgoing President Donald Trump. Bragg re-indicted him just the other day with Arthur Aidala as his attorney. He accepted a plea, a guilty plea. No jail time. Bragg picked up that case. And I'm telling you, they are salivating at the Manhattan DA's office now that Eric Adams has become MAGA Eric, and he wants that notch on his belt to be continued. Man, the plot thickens here at WABC.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
Curtis doesn't know about you, but he rips and reads.
This is the Rip and Read.
From a long way away, and I know the right thing when I see it. See it. For the same reason, no one ever pointed a telescope at the sun. Talking about the red angels of NY City.
Oh, this was a song dedicated to the Guardian Angels by the greatest counterculture group of all time, The Clash. Back in the early days of the 80s when we were being harassed by police, then Mayor Ed Koch hated us and the police unions wanted to put us out of business. Then eventually, as we grew and we began to patrol more and more subway lines and then the streets and dealing with all the problems that the police either couldn't or wouldn't deal with, Rudy Giuliani became mayor and embraced us and turned this city around and gave us an opportunity to prove what we could do as volunteers to this city. We, the sons and daughters of the blue-collar working class, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, male, and female. And we did it so successfully that we've now expanded to 13 countries, and we've been involved in over 130 cities. And as you know, in this past December 22nd, with the death by fire of Debbie Kwame, that still makes me want to tear up and cry right there on the F train, 7:30 in the morning. She was homeless, a Jersey girl, like so many others who ride the trains, the homeless and the emotionally disturbed that we care for. And I ordered all the Guardian Angels in the city of New York to begin riding the trains, and not just to keep people safe, but to take care of the homeless and the emotional disturbed who have been forsaken by administration after administration who just doesn't care. They're migrant-centric. If you're a migrant, you get everything free. You're put into a hotel. If you're a veteran, peacetime, wartime, down on your luck, or if you're a homeless New Yorker, like so many are nowadays, mostly African Americans, I might add, but they've been forsaken by our elected officials. We have not done that. We've been consistent now for 46 years. We celebrate this day because nobody thought that we would last 46 days, never mind 46 years. And I've been proud to be the one who started it, and I continue to pilot it, even though I have leaders all over the world who carry on the mission. And tonight, I'll be heading up on the subway into the Bronx, to the Bronx County Republican headquarters of Mike Rendino and his sister, Christy Marmorato, who is the Republican councilwoman there, the 13th district. And it's assumed that I will be given their designation, their nomination, as a Republican mayoral candidate. That will mean Staten Island has endorsed me, Brooklyn has endorsed me, the Bronx has endorsed me, which is so important, because that's where I started the Guardian Angels in February 13th of 1979. With just 13 young men, later to be joined by young women, all of whom worked for me in that McDonald's, and we began patrolling the subways, the number 4 train, the Muggers Express, when I closed the restaurant on Fordham Road at about 1 a.m. And by the way, that restaurant has been padlocked and closed by the McDonald's Corporation because they consider it to be unmanageable because of all the drug dealers and the drug users and the pimps and the prostitutes and the homeless and the emotionally disturbed and the chaos that took place in that restaurant. So if you pass by now, as I will later on, when I finish my meeting with the Bronx County Republicans, and hopefully they will give me their mayoral nomination, I want to pay tribute to 46 years with the Guardian Angels. And I will tell you this, there's been a lot of ups and downs, but we've always been there for the people. You know, I've called myself the people's mayor, and I do represent all the people, even those that may not vote for me or disagree with me politically, but they always know the guardian angels are there because we dare to care. And this coming on the cusp of Valentine's Day, I have everything to be happy about with the success of the guardian angels and our 46th anniversary that will take place at approximately 8 o'clock this evening, hopefully when Bronx County Republicans are giving me their mayoral nomination. It'll be 46 years since. And then tomorrow with Valentine's Day, my wife Nancy, who makes this all possible, who's the absolute best, and like for all of you, Valentine's Day will be so important for you and the ones that you love, and honoring and cherishing them as I do, Nancy. I could never have achieved all these things without her throwing the lifeline to me and reaching out to me in my moments of physical despair. Remember, severe case of prostate cancer almost took my life. Unfortunately, it took our colleague Bernard McGurk's life. Crohn's disease. It almost took my life. And yet because of Nancy, she was at my side through thick and thin. And so it'll be a tremendous Valentine's Day. And yet Valentine's Day is also the birthday of the guy who tried to have me killed, John Gotti Jr. He tried, but he was not successful. 5 hollow point bullets later, the gunman just recently out of jail after doing 20 years for trying to execute me. And clearly I was lucky on that morning of June 19th of 1992 in the Lower East Side of jumping out of a moving cab, or I would have been dead on arrival. And where was I going? To WABC, my home away from home. So I've come full circle this week. And it has been another amazing week of broadcasting, but it doesn't get any better. Back to back, belly to belly, the 46th anniversary of the Guardian Angels, honoring Nancy, also my partner here in animal welfare, and thinking about how John Gotti Jr. is going to be celebrating. And I can say, hey, John, you want to try again? Huh?